Hello, this is Helene, the environmental educator. In this video, we're going to talk about a lot of farms are trying to recover from Helene. It says leaves farmers struggling with losses. There's a bunch of articles about this. They face depleted toxic soil and a lot more, actually, and how one farm is coping. We'll just go through these articles. They say that things are very tough for them right now. The recovery efforts, they're helping to coordinate and deliver feed and other supplies to hard-hit farms, and they've gotten good donations, but they say that they are just getting to the point of trying to clean up right now. And livestock producers face multiple problems. The streams and rivers are contaminated from upstream runoff and municipal wastewater. A lot of area cattle producers use the streams and rivers to water their cattle, but a lot of them have died. A bunch of them are coming up with nasty sicknesses because there are toxic chemicals that have been released into the water from sewers and treatment plants, and not just treatment plants, but manufacturing plants. A lot of places went down and all the chemicals that they used got mixed in. And so now the livestock is drinking that water and they're coming up with nasty sicknesses. It's not just that. They say that the cows are so stressed, they have no interest in wanting to be a mama. So they just walk away from their calves. So the calves are now just little tykes on their own, and the moms aren't doing their motherly duties. There's been a lot of problems out there for everybody out there, but farmers are getting hit hard. This article says that they're struggling with losses. They say that farmers in the area say they have lost dozens of cattle and many lost land. The farmers say that they're amazed at the amount of people donating and that it's incredible. People are coming from far and wide to the livestock center to drop off feed for animals, and volunteers are also bringing materials that are needed. Right now, they're asking for a lot of fencing. They have to keep the animals that have survived in. Without the fencing that's all been wiped out, they can't do that. They talk about Henderson County is known for apples and other perennial crops, including peaches and blackberries. They say these trees and plants that were lost, when they're replaced, we're not going to be getting any yield from them from anywhere from 2 to 5 years. So they say it's a very big loss and a lot of multipliers involved. So even if they can replant them in their polluted fields, it's going to take 2 to 5 years for these fruit trees and plants to start giving them income again. And it ends with, they believe the recovery will take a long time. Of course it will. If you're looking at years before you can replant and then start getting a harvest on that replanting. They say, this article here, Lancaster Farming, it says that farmers across the East Coast are organizing grassroots donations and distribution networks to help their peers who lost feed and livestock. The farming say the flooding was catastrophic. The water was 8 feet above the top of the corn. It was 20 feet high along the river bottom. They lost 80% of their corn and thousands of dollars worth of fences. You have to have those fences to keep all of your animals contained. They're getting a lot of round bales. That's of hay donations. They've gotten 2,000 so far, but they figure 8,000 will be needed in the long run. And that some farms won't be able to accept hay for a while because they lack a place to put it. And they say that much of the donated hay so far has been low quality, and dairy farms especially will need higher quality feed. And some of these other articles say that a lot of the bales of hay are just soaked. They're sitting on the farms. The farmers are trying to figure out where to put it, and it's so heavy that it's hard to even move them. It says here that one farm near Asheville lost hundreds of beef cattle. They're still finding horses on the other side of the mountain, either dead or just barely hanging on. One dairy farmer near Asheville was faced with having to put his cows down because they were just starving to death. And one of the problems facing the farmers is, it says here that people are literally in shock and they just can't think straight. it's organized chaos right now, and that they're not looking forward to winter. They say winter is going to be hard. One farmer who grows about 1,000 acres of corn and soybeans lost 95% of his crop, and it just doesn't stop. The bad headlines from this just keep coming in. This article talks about the toxic soil that from all the waste in the sewers and all the manufacturing plants and the corpses that were washed away, and then in the water, they have contaminated the soil. They say what it left behind, tons of soil, sediment, and toxic sludge in places where it shouldn't be, including covering our region's farms. There is a farmer who grows rice and an assortment of Asian vegetables and the best peaches in the region, but it drowned $60,000 worth of produce, which is significant for a small farm to lose. Another farm had all of its crops destroyed, and it washed away 2 greenhouses. They say that it only takes a few inches to contaminate a crop, meaning a few inches of floodwater. They say we're out in the country. Every house upstream has a septic system and septic field that will have mixed fecal matter into those floodwaters. Another person said they stood on their porch and watched propane canisters and 300-gallon oil drums float by. Affluent from wastewater plants, pesticides, herbicides, fuel, and industrial chemicals all ended up in the water. That toxic sludge plastered across roads and sidewalks, filling buildings and alleyways. The community called for personal protective gear so they could clean their town, but maybe you can get it out of buildings. It's a lot harder to get it out of the soil. One thing they're not talking about is putting hemp in the ground. Hemp detoxifies the soil as it grows, removing harmful chemicals and pollutants. After harvest, leaves and stalks that are left behind break down and enrich the soil with valuable nutrients like nitrogen and oxygen. Now, nobody down there in North Carolina is talking about putting some hemp in the ground, but that would certainly help them solve their problems, at least the problems of toxic soil, because they certainly have a lot more problems going on, including livestock that are just abandoning their youth because they're just so stressed out they have no interest in wanting to be a mama. So there's a lot of problems going on down there in North Carolina with the farmers, people. Just don't think it's all dandy just because it's out of the headlines. Stay tuned.